Update. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his family out after his son stole my engagement ring? Original post. The reason I, 26 male, know is because I literally caught him in my room going through my things. And it's on freaking camera. My nephew is 9 and has a habit of stealing things. They've gotten in trouble a few times at stores because he'd leave with something in his pockets. But of course, because he's a kid, they usually just say he forgot he had it. Even at school, my brother has told me they have had to come talk to the principal on a couple occasions. Doesn't seem like they've done anything to stop it. They had to come stay here with me because my brother lost his job, and they weren't gonna make it with all their bills, including rent. He's doing Uber right now while he searches for a job and they can move out. I didn't want to because of my nephew specifically, but family's family, I guess. A month ago, I finally bought an engagement ring for my girlfriend that I was planning on proposing to soon, but now I don't know. It's a $4,000 ring that I spent over a year saving up for. It's been hidden in my room under one of my drawers. One time, when I found him snooping in my room, I told my brother to control his damn kid, then got one of those cheap spy cams in my room just in case. Then last week, I noticed it was out of its box, and after checking the cam, it showed he was in there again when I wasn't home. My brother and his wife have yelled at him. He says he left it by the TV in the guest room, but it's not there. They looked through all their stuff and his too. I know for a fact he's lying about not having it, because that's the same thing he said about one of my watches he took, then ended up finding it. By the second day, my brother tells me they can't find it at all. And I told him either they find the ring, or he repays me the $4,000 I spent on it. If not, they can't stay here anymore. My brother got really upset. He told me I know how their situation is right now. And yes, it's a tough spot, but I couldn't ignore the fact that his kid he can't parent took something extremely important to me that costed a lot of time and money. They were given a week to leave my house if they don't find a ring. They're having to stay at a cheap motel. But my brother won't stop begging to come back because what they're paying right now each night is coming directly out of their savings. He won't stop calling me heartless about letting something like this come between helping them out through a difficult time, that my nephew keeps saying is sorry. It's just hard right now to want them around. Don't even know what to do about the ring. And every time I think about it, it just makes me so mad that it's hard to care about their situation. Does that make me an a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They sold the ring. I think so too. At this point, why won't his nephew say where it went? The thing with kleptomaniacs is they often don't know what to do with the things they steal. He may have washed it down the sink, flushed it down the toilet, buried it in the garden, etc., just to hide it. It's not so much about having things, it's about taking them. It's highly unfortunate that he took something so important, and his parents definitely need to get him help, and should have done so already, which could have prevented this. Yeah, I hate to agree with this, but when I was the nephew's age, I was being mistreated at home and it came out in a weird phase of kleptomania. I didn't know what to do with the things I stole, so most of the time I threw them away out of fear. You probably did the same. Not stay home. File a police report and file a claim with your homeowner's insurance. I don't have homeowner's insurance. It's not a house. File a police report anyway, and if it gets pawned, the police will be able to track it back to you. Check out some pawn shops on your own. File a police report and take them to small claims. You have the proof on camera. Not the a-hole. Hopefully not, but there is a possibility he was encouraged to do it and it was pawned. Nobody knew I got a ring from my girlfriend. It's been hidden in my room before they even came to live with me. It just seems odd that the ring is now gone. I know kids lose things because they put them in odd places. Just knowing your family is financially in trouble, although I don't know them personally, it wouldn't be inconceivable that they might have sold it. It's a possibility, but I also know my nephew's a liar and likely knows where it is but won't say anything. This isn't the first time something is stolen that he acts completely innocent about, until it's found somewhere he hid it. A Down 40 update. So many of you have asked non-stop for an update. Sorry it took me a while to log back on, but lots of stuff have been going on. Yes, I found a ring. It was a stressful day doing a deeper search in my house trying to think like my nephew, and looking in places where I think he'd hide something if he really didn't want it to be found. And the decision was if it really wasn't found and my brother wasn't able to get him to talk, or they wouldn't be able to pay back what I'm owed, then the police would get involved. He did beg me not to, but I told him then you better pray I find it or you come up with the money to pay me for it. Guess both our prayers worked because guess where I found it? In the freaking sink. The sink. And that's thanks to the comments that told me to look in those places. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. It was in the sink that was in their guest room. I'm glad you didn't just throw it away. You guys don't know how freaking relieved I was to find it. Took some work to remove the pit trap under the sink to get it out, but I was just so happy to find it. The same night my girlfriend, now fiancé, got back, I proposed to her and she said yes. After a nice romantic dinner, just the two of us at home. The plan was to wait, but after all this mess, I thought, screw it. I'm proposing ASAP before anything else happens. After my brother heard about me finding the ring, he thought this meant they could come back. I said no. He wanted to argue about this again. All I told him was he's lucky I haven't gone to the cops since there were already video evidence of his son taking the ring. And there's no way I'm letting them back in when my nephew wouldn't even say what he did with the ring. I talked with my nephew myself after I found a ring, but he just said he didn't want to tell anyone because then I'd be mad at him for hiding it. Honestly, I just don't have the energy for them anymore. His problem is their problem, and hopefully they get him help before it's too late. Only thing important to me is my fiancé and I starting our lives and planning our wedding. Thank you guys for your help. Seriously, you guys were my lifesavers. Added to add, I just received this news after already submitting my post for approval and just wanted to add because I'm so happy. But girlfriend also informed me she's pregnant. She found out while she was on her trip and was waiting for a good time to tell me. Not related to the post, but I don't care. I'm gonna be a dad. The fact that the kid refused to tell you where it was and his parents refused to make him means you are absolutely in the right and would be crazy to let them back in. Little Brad is going to end up in prison if his parents don't wake up. Exactly. If he's stealing, lying, and manipulating people to this level at 9 and his parents do nothing but enable him, imagine where he's going to be at 19. I had to read that number twice because wow, this is so worrying. Kid needs therapy. Congratulations 3 times over. You found a ring. She said yes. You're going to be a father. P.S. It's obvious you'll be a better father to your child than your brother is to his. Many more moments of happiness for you and your growing family. You're going to be a father. That line right there gives me chills every time I read it. Well, whatever happens, I hope I can be the kind of dad my kid will need me to be for them. It wasn't in the sink. It was in the drain pipe. OMG. I'm so happy for you that you found a ring and got your brother's family out. Amazing update. Thank goodness it didn't flush it down the toilet. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my daughter's wedding? This happened a few months ago, but the situation is still tense. So although I don't think to be in the fault, figured I would ask for opinions. Early last year, my 52 daughter, then 25-26 at the wedding, informally announced to me her engagement to a nice man, 27. I really have nothing bad to say about him. An educated, respectful, and kind young man. I reacted pretty bad, I must admit, because she is my baby. She's too young for this. She got pretty upset at my reaction because she claimed that she graduated college and works full-time, as did her boyfriend, and she hoped that once in my life I would just be happy for her and respect her choices, trusting that she's responsible enough to be considered an adult. At any rate, she kept the engagement, but the wedding talks immediately ceased and no one in our family was informed, except for her brother. In the fall of last year, she contacted me again, she lives away, to tell me that she and her boyfriend decided to move forward and wanted to know how I felt about that, because this is something they thought over and wanted to do. I got mad again, because she's still my baby, and there was no rush, as I told her she could have waited another 4 years or so and get a nice job first. She was pissed off, and reminded me that she works in a nice place doing what she studied for already. Okay, she is a full-time employee, not an intern, but she doesn't get paid much. And she remarked that she intends to keep moving with her career with time. She isn't planning on kids right away. We discussed, and as my son told me, I have been passive-aggressive with her. But in the end, she literally told me, Mom, F off. which is disrespectful and a proof of how immature she is. This time, she decided to move forward, informed the family, and set a date. But in the following weeks, she wasn't happy until she decided to call off the reception and eloped with just her brother and her boyfriend's brother. The man was okay with this because he lost his parents as a child, and he and his brother grew up in an orphanage. She got married at the beginning of the year, and I got mad because she called off the reception to make an offense to me, to humiliate me in front of our family. While my daughter claims that since her own mother couldn't be happy for her, I can't fake, I wasn't. There was no point in going together dress shopping, cake shopping, and stuff together, and then celebrating at the wedding. It would have been fake, and the mere thought made her sick to her stomach. She's really bitter that she couldn't have her big day because of me. That's what she's saying, and says that there is nothing more I can do to make it right, which I don't think I should. She has been disrespectful and childish since day one. All my family thinks I'm right, except for my son, which sided with his sister since the first announcement. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I just don't want her to make the same mistakes I did. Getting my kids so young truly ruined my life. She can become important someday. She's too intelligent to be wasted preparing baby food. She says she won't have kids for now, but that's literally what I said. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. In what universe are you not the a-hole? You took a joyous occasion away from a loved one by making it all about yourself. It doesn't even sound like you have a reason to be so vile. Perhaps you just couldn't stand the thought of her being happy. Either way, I'm glad you still got married. And you need to get over yourself before you ruin your relationship with her forever. She's too young, whines the woman who was pregnant by that age. This whole post sounds like Opie resents having her own kids and is trying to live vicariously through her daughter. You're the a-hole. Edit. Ding ding ding. But Opie still seems to think that what she wants for her daughter is more important than what her daughter wants for herself. She does resent her kids. She said in her Reddit that having her children young ruined her life. How much do you bet that Opie's kids grew up hearing about how much Opie wished she hadn't had her kids? Opie, you're incredibly selfish and self-involved. You're 100% the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Big time. I'm curious about Opie's feelings that her daughter is her baby and too young to get married. At first glance, those words would indicate caring about her daughter, right? But actually, looking at the situation, to Opie, Opie's daughter is only supposed to exist as an accessory to her. Only Opie's feelings about her daughter are important, but not her daughter's actual life. Opie, good parents actually want their children to become independent and succeed. I don't think the word baby indicates caring at all in this context. It indicates a desire for control. If the daughter is a baby, she is too young to make her own decisions. She is a 26-year-old woman, not a baby. Of course, I agree with you here. You're the a-hole. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my fiancé and taking my heels off at our engagement party? My fiancé, male 31, and I, female 26, got engaged several days ago. This is relevant. He's tall and I'm in the 5s category. Pretty small compared to him and his family. He asked that I wear heels at our engagement party since there was going to be photos. Although I wasn't comfortable, not a fan either, with high heels, I decided to wear them just for his sake since he begged and pleaded. And also since he promised I would be sitting most of the time. But at the party, he had me stand for hours to welcome the guests with him. There were like 20 guests. I got so tired of standing and my feet and legs were on fire. I asked if I could sit, but his mom said I'm the fiancé and should stand next to my partner, not just sit like the party had nothing to do with me. I told my fiancé again that I was in so much pain, but he said, "Suck it up, it's almost over." I had enough of it. I took my heels off and let my feet and legs cool off. He and his mom looked at me in utter confusion. Several of his family and guests saw me in barefoot as well. He freaked out asking what I was doing. His mom asked that I put my heels on, but I said my feet were done, but I couldn't do it anymore. My fiancé begged me, but I stood there till it was over like he wanted. The minute I got in the car, he flipped out, saying I embarrassed him in front of family and friends by standing there barefoot and refusing to put my heels back on even after his mom repeatedly asked. I reminded him that he said I wouldn't be standing, but turns out it wasn't true. He argued that for someone with a height like mine, then I should wear heels more often, and said should have sucked it up for his sake. He went upstairs and turned his phone off and refused to speak to me. I had no intentions of embarrassing him, and I do feel I should have sucked it up. But I think that he wasn't truthful about how long I was expected to stand. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, he doesn't usually care if I wear high heels, and said I should start considering wearing them from now on out, because most women wear heels at big occasions like weddings and engagement parties. Not the a-hole. Please don't marry this man. That is some serious controlling behavior. I was just typing this. Honestly, this is way bigger of a problem than just what happened at a party. Not the a-hole, and probably worth rethinking an engagement with a man who has so little concern for your well-being that he will give you the silent treatment for wanting to not be in pain. Precisely. High heels are not comfortable shoes. Wearing them for extended periods of time can cause blisters, leg pain, etc. I find it weird he was obsessed with the need for Opie to wear heels because she's short. Her fiancé should want her to feel comfortable. She could have worn lower heels, or even some nice flats. It's definitely not a good sign that he cares more about appearances than her actual comfort. Same goes for his mother. Why would he choose a short partner if he wasn't comfortable having a short partner? So, my fiancé is a full foot taller than me and I wear heels every day. However, for special occasions, I don't always choose the most comfortable pair. He took me on an incredible trip for my birthday and was so upset that I wore heels that made my toes, ankles, and top of my feet bleed and blister. He said he didn't understand why I did that to myself, and that me being in pain was ruining the trip. I can't even imagine being with someone who didn't care about my physical well-being. That's just so bare minimum. So let's just ring this up, shall we? Your fiancé is so comfortable with your height, he freaks if you're seen in public at your natural height. Your fiancé thinks he's been embarrassed in front of his family and friends if you take your shoes off. Your fiancé thinks that the fact that his mom asks is more important than the fact that you are in pain. Your fiancé describes you in terms like, with a height like yours, as if you're defective. Your fiancé goes off and sulks and refuses to speak to you over this. Did I miss anything? Not the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend out over my cat? Original story. For context, my 24 female boyfriend 30 male and I recently moved in together. It's something we've been talking about, and when his lease ended, he moved into my apartment. I have a cat, Millie, who is my baby girl that I've had since she was a kitten. Back when my boyfriend and I first started dating, he made a joke that if we were ever going to live together, he'd have to get rid of that cat, which I dismissed at the time. When he would come over, he would ignore Millie, making jokes about how cats are stuck up, how much she's a dog person. Again, I dismissed this, because I never acted hostile towards her, and I figured it was just a preference. When we started to get serious about moving in, he asked if I would consider giving her away, because he didn't like the idea of living with a cat. He almost laughed before realizing he was serious. I told him that under no circumstances would I get rid of my cat. I felt guilty about being unwilling to compromise, but he actually took it well, and reassured me that if she was this important to me, he'd get over it. Fast forward to last night. I don't think he realized I was in the kitchen when he came home. Millie was on a couch, and I heard him go into the room and give this sigh. But before I could call out, I heard him say, "You're so freaking worthless." It terrified me because I've never heard him speak with such malice. He sounded like a different person. It was just so cold and hostile that I panicked and rushed out there to see him looking at Millie. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I completely freaked out. I was yelling, asking what he thought was doing talking to her like that. He jumped, and I scooped Millie up and told him to leave my apartment right now. He looked so stunned and started to argue, asking where was he supposed to go. I told him that I don't care. He just needs to leave. He was pissed and said he was going for a drive and slammed the door behind him. I immediately started sobbing and holding Millie. I was shaking, and she could tell I was upset and kept cuddling me. She calmed me down, and later when he texted asking if he could come back, I said yes. I put Millie in the bedroom so we could talk. We were both a lot calmer, and I felt awful after we explained aside. I'll often call Millie little names, and he said he was just trying to be playfully mean too and misjudged his tone. But he said it felt awful that I chose a cat over him,
and that he called it my apartment when it's supposed to be our place. He told me he was constantly feeling second best to Millie, who I wouldn't even consider rehoming, and I had thrown him out over an animal when he's a person. I explained to him how much he means to me, and apologized for ever making him feel like this wasn't his home. I think I might have overreacted, but I just don't know. He's my boyfriend, and she's something I kept refusing to compromise on. But I also don't believe that he just misjudged his tone. Am I the a-hole?
Top comments before reading the update.
Not an a-hole, and he's lying now. Don't let him gaslight you. Your cat is going to go missing someday. This. If for some reason you do continue this, make sure you have plenty of photographs of her and you as proof that she's yours, and that she's microchipped because she will end up on the streets or dropped off at a shelter. Not an a-hole. Rehome your a-hole boyfriend. You shouldn't have dismissed those earlier jokes. On a first date, you should have said something like, all jokes aside, I would never get rid of my cat. I can't BS on the worthless comments being his attempt at being playful. He is just making up excuses because you caught him. Agreed. He got caught and came up with a BS excuse. Ditch him before the cat goes missing or worse. Not an a-hole. The way a person talks about an animal or treats an animal is a good indication of the type of person they are. After all the talk about wanting to get rid of her, I could never trust him alone with her. How do I know he won't poison her, physically hurt her, or dump on the side of the road? If it was my boyfriend, he would be gone. Flat out gone. If you don't like cats/dogs, that's fine. But when you are just nasty about it, then you cross a line. Yep, if this is how he is when he thinks Opie isn't there and is his regular mood, I dread to think how he is in a bad mood.
And now for the update. First of all, wow. I did not expect a flood of supportive comments, messages, and awards. I tried to respond to as many messages as I could, at least the ones that weren't wildly hateful, but I genuinely appreciated all of the kind words and concern for me and Millie. Everybody's comments were extremely eye-opening. I felt sick to my stomach reading about people afraid for Millie, and it had already crossed my mind honestly. Making that post validated all the fears that I had kept dismissing as dramatic, and it was almost a relief to be encouraged by strangers to do something I had previously been too afraid to do. So we broke up. It's my apartment. He wasn't on the lease yet, and he's going to go stay with his brother. Had to read around about gaslighting, and my sisters would agree with all of you about that one. It was hard to lose somebody I trusted and thought I knew well, but based on his reaction, I knew I made a right call. He essentially told me that if I couldn't learn to put other humans before my cat, I'd be alone for a very long time, and that he'd be waiting for me to reach out. Millie doesn't deserve to just be tolerated. She deserves to be safe and treated like the little princess she is by anybody I live with. She's seen me through so much, and I'd rather be alone than her wandering around the side of the road somewhere. And I am absolutely terrified of her ever being hurt. It isn't worth the risk. I'm okay with it being just her and I for now. Thanks everybody for the advice. When my boyfriend moved in, he babied my cats so much I'm pretty sure he was their favorite human. That was relegated to the position of backup slave. We've since got another cat together. I could never date someone who didn't love animals. Good for you and Millie. There are better guys out there. Ow, my 2 cats are super babied by my boyfriend. He's their favorite person. Me, I'm just convenient when he's not around, lol. My boyfriend kisses the top of his cats' heads. Now when they get pets from me, they present their heads for kisses sometimes. I do not deserve any one of them. I'm a dog person 100%, but I live with my significant other and his cat, and our dogs. The cat drives me crazy. He's up at 5 a.m., and for some reason he loves me more than my significant other, so he has to sit on my face in the morning. And he drools. What kind of cat drools? He also claws the furniture, and screams like a tiny demon when you ignore him. Even with all that, I still love that little bastard, and I would never ask my significant other to get rid of him. He is family. He may be annoying as hell, and I'm not a cat person at all, but he's still my little floofy baby. So what I'm saying is, good for you, Opie. You'll definitely find someone who will love you and your adorable cat. Cats drool just like dogs do, sometimes when they're hot, but mostly when they're happy and excited. We've got a senior cat outside named Jack. All you have to do is talk to him a bit, and he goes gaga for potential pets and will start drooling everywhere. Yes, girl. I'm sitting here with my old man cat. I've had him for 15 years, longer than I've had my husband. If I'd had to have gotten rid of this cat for a man, I would not get to see him spend his senior years cuddled up with my daughter who adores him. I wouldn't trade that for anything. You'll find someone that respects Miss Millie and loves her as much as you do. He essentially told me that if I couldn't learn to put other humans before my cat, I'd be alone for a very long time, and that he'd be waiting for me to reach out. Holy cow, you made a right call. I love my fiancé, but if he told me I had to choose between him or my 2 fur babies, he'd be out so freaking fast his head would spin. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for greatly increasing my husband's chores and dismissing his complaints after he called me a homemaker? Context. I work in my own startup. Husband John works in a movie theater. Before I started my company, we both had similar income, but now I earn 5 times as much as him. The chore dynamic at home was always heavily skewed. I'm very neat and like cooking, so I handled the lion's share of chores on top of my job. After the company started growing, John invested himself more in chores because he was staying at home due to movie theaters being closed. His workplace reopened a few months ago and he immediately stopped doing most chores. I have been lenient and doing more than my share since he comes home every day exhausted and complaining. After work, he does nothing but leisure, totally overlooking the fact I manage our household on top of running my company. I'm kind of a doormat sometimes, so I let it go because I want to be kind to John. But last weekend, he crossed a line. I work 7 days a week, John has weekends off, and he was playing video games all day while I was working, and he came to ask me when lunch would be ready. I told him that I am very busy with work, and can he cook for once? He declined, then complained that it was so much easier in his grandfather's time, when the homemaker didn't do anything other than her duties. I exploded. We had the biggest screaming match in our lives, with him calling himself the breadwinner of the household, repeatedly hiding behind the claim that he goes out to work, as opposed to me working from home, which means I'm a housewife, huh? I steamrolled his claims by pointing out that I earn much more money than him. I work longer hours and still do all the chores. I told him to quit his job and dedicate all of his time to chores. Since he is so enamored with the simpler times of homemakers and breadwinners, even if he became unemployed, our financial situation wouldn't change. He acted appalled. Monday, I gave him a list of chores to do, about 2 to 3 hours of chores daily. He constantly complains, and I just reply with, quit your job. I spent years doing all the chores on top of my job, but he whines at the prospect of doing just half. Tuesday night, he told me he refused to do the chores, and I couldn't force him. I shouted him down into submission, telling him that I spent our entire common life picking up the ball that keeps dropping, and that his choice to work an unskilled job for pocket change does not preclude him from helping me, the breadwinner, keep this household in shape. Yesterday, I locked up his PS5 in our safe and changed the combination. This is not in my nature. I'm usually polite and soft-spoken, and I feel like an a-hole when I see him looking like a sad puppy and whining that he is tired. But I just snapped. I feel like I don't have a choice. If I let John do nothing and consider himself the breadwinner who deserves to come home to a clean house and warm meal through no effort of his own, I would lock myself into a life of servitude. Am I an a-hole? Now for the comments. Oh my girl, you're most definitely not an a-hole. In fact, don't you dare take even the tiniest step back. Hold your ground as if your life depended on it. Edit. I would very much like to know the gender of the people who will vote either you're the a-hole or everyone sucks here. You and I both. For people saying, oh, but the way she spoke to him isn't right. Her husband is being a sexist, lazy, disrespectful pig, and quite literally trying to invalidate her success and value in the marriage. I challenge anyone who thinks she is also an a-hole to try living with a significant other like that and not changing their tune. Not an a-hole. Sounds like you've been picking up his slack for a while. How dare you make claims about you being a homemaker when you're apparently bringing in the majority of the money? Working from home is work. I doubt working at the movie theater is very lucrative. Stop picking up his slack. He is being disrespectful of you, your job, and everything you do for your home. How dare he make claims about you being a homemaker when you're apparently bringing in the majority of the money? I know, right? This is exactly the thought that sent me over the metaphorical line. The answer is that, since I'm at home all day, and I get to choose my hours since I'm the boss, while he is at his workplace all day, that's all he considered. The fact I work more hours and earn a lot more money never crossed his mind, I guess. That's also how he'd justify not doing chores to himself. I concluded after thinking on it a while. He did his part by doing his job, so he expects to come home and do nothing more, since he put in his hours. The fact that he had this unspoken belief that I'm his housewife, that really grated my nerves like nothing else ever did. I hope the intimacy is amazing, because you're getting screwed. Not stay home. To be honest, it is. Not stay home. But why? Why are you with someone who treats you like this? This is the third post today I've seen with a similar theme. The real deep reasons would require hours with a therapist to untangle, as is often the case with human relationships. Probably a mix of childhood trauma, me being very socially awkward, sunk cost fallacy, etc., etc., etc. The concrete day-to-day reasons that were observable to me? I answered it this way in another comment. We were college sweethearts, when it doesn't matter if the other is a bit lazy or kind of a slob. He stopped at his bachelor's, while I continued all the way up to my PhD, and he supported me financially through it all. I supported him in turn for years after I graduated. We are now in the stage of adulthood where it's very hard to start dating again, and I genuinely love John. If he could step up his act, I think we could find again this stability and great synchronicity between us. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend that his daughter can't have her own room in our house? So, my boyfriend 30 male and I 24 female have been together for 2 years, and we just bought our first house together, and we moved in at the end of the month. My boyfriend has a 4-year-old daughter, Kate, from a previous relationship. I love Kate with all of my heart. She lives with my boyfriend's ex, and comes to visit us for short stays and sleepovers, more often in the summertime. Our new house is about a 30-minute drive from Kate's mom's house. It has 3 bedrooms, a master bedroom and 2 smaller bedrooms. We are converting one of the rooms to be an office for my boyfriend and me to work from. That leaves just 1 spare bedroom. Kate was really nervous about us moving so far away, and my boyfriend has reassured her that she will still get to visit all the time, and she will have her own bedroom waiting for her whenever she wants. My issue with this is that I don't want Kate to treat the only spare bedroom as her personal bedroom. Rather, I want it to be thought of as a guest bedroom. Of course, Kate can stay there whenever she wants to. This isn't part of the debate, as I want her to feel welcome all the time. But I don't want it to be only her room. I don't want it to be filled with her toys and clothes, so nobody else feels comfortable to sleep in there. I don't think it's fair that a room is reserved for someone who is not there 90% of the time. In addition, my boyfriend and I are planning to have a child of our own, and I want to make sure that when that happens, we will have a space for them to live. I can only imagine the circus in a few years if we have to tell Kate we are taking away her room to give to her new sibling. That's why I want to set expectations now, that Kate is always welcome, but she will be welcome as a guest. My boyfriend thinks I'm being unreasonable, that Kate needs her own room for stability, especially as she feels we are moving away from her. He says we can keep a pull-out sofa in our office for guests to stay on, and call the spare room Kate's room. I still don't think it's fair to have a room just for Kate when she won't use it very often. And I think it's reasonable to be worried at the prospect of eventually giving Kate's room away to a future child. You're the a-hole. I am not surprised that you didn't discuss this beforehand, because it would be obvious to anyone with a heart that a 4-year-old is not a guest in her father's house. It is her other home. Of course she gets a room there. Seriously, you should go apologize profusely to your boyfriend and his daughter, if you have already spoken to her about this. Apparently they did, and her boyfriend made it clear he intended one of the rooms to be for Kate, but she somehow misunderstood and thought that just meant a room with a bed, minus all of her belongings, and that it would be temporary. I can't imagine how dense or heartless this woman could possibly be, to think that the father of this little girl just meant, I'll give Kate a room to sleep until someone else more important comes along to fill that room, which is what Opie here was thinking. You're the a-hole. She's a child, a 4-year-old, and you want to make sure she knows that isn't her room? Marinate on that. You want to make sure a 4-year-old isn't too comfortable or at home in her dad's home. If I were him, I'd leave you. Oh my god, I didn't even think this deep. But that is exactly what's happening. I am in awe of Opie's post. It is unbelievable. You're the a-hole. She's not a guest. She's his daughter.
My stepson lives 4 hours away and we get him on school breaks and during the summer. The rest of the time his room is closed off, so the cats can't wreak havoc. It's not wasted space. It's his room. And when he comes back, he knows his Nerf guns and video games and other toys are safely awaiting him in his room. You say you want her to feel welcome, but how is she supposed to feel that when she's not even worthy of having her own space? Crap like this is why step-parents get such a bad rep.
Update. I told my mom how jealous I am of my half-siblings and now she won't stop crying. I-16 male was born to my mom when she was 15 and I've never known my real dad. My mom didn't drop out of school or anything, and the year after I was born, she started dating Jack. And when they went to university, I obviously got left behind with my grandparents. Mom and Jack got good degrees, got married and moved to Vancouver. My mom's always been in my life. She would still come home every weekend just to cuddle with me and would always give me these nicknames, but calling me her special guy was her favorite one. She'd always bring me back presents and gifts and spend the whole time playing with me. She's the one who paid for my tutoring and after-school stuff and would try and make it to games and stuff like that. Jack wouldn't always come with her, but it was always fun when he would. He's taken me fishing with him a lot of times and we even went camping for 2 weeks together once. But never again because I hate camping. But when I was 10, my mom and Jack had a daughter and then another girl 3 years ago. I don't really know them, especially because my mom stopped coming over as much after they were born. We don't cuddle anymore. We did on my birthday, but that's it. No more cute nicknames for me except for special guy. It's like they all got transferred to her daughters. No more gifts, and the worst part is, she doesn't come to my games anymore. It was okay with me before, because they still had a spare room in their house and I could go there when it's time for university. Yesterday, my mom FaceTimed and she had the big announcement that she was going to have another baby, and it was a boy. And now she'd have 2 special guys. I guess she saw how sour my face was, because she asked what's wrong. And I don't know, I just admitted how jealous I was that her daughters got her so much, and now her son was going to get her. There wouldn't even be space for me there when I had to go to university. And I guess what I said affected her because she started crying and wouldn't stop and had to hang up. My grandparents are mad that I made her upset and think I don't value them now or something. Jack phoned me and he's mad because my mom thinks it's a mistake now to have another kid. And also mad at me, and he was like, why would I ever think they wouldn't have a room for me? I feel like I really messed up telling her that. And here I am at school writing about it on Reddit because I can't stop thinking about it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I don't know why all the adults in your life are blaming you, a child, for your very valid feelings about this. They should be trying to make you feel more comfortable and included, rather than try to smother your genuine feelings. Your mom feels bad because she should. She's in her 30s now. There's no reason why she can't be around you anymore. There's no reason Opie shouldn't be living with his mother. If she's supporting her own family and having kids, the grandparents' time of raising Opie should be over now. I question why Opie's mom doesn't have him living with her. I was surprised when mom finished college, she didn't move her son into her home. No wonder he feels neglected. I feel like Jack played a big role in why he's not living with them. It's horrible when new partners don't accept children from previous relationships and treat them with love and respect. I understand that the children must also treat the new partner with love and respect. But adults are adults. Children are children. Some adults don't have maturity and so many stepchildren feel unloved. Why couldn't you move back once she graduated and started another family? She can't have her cake and eat it too. Unless the grandparents formally adopted him, then he is still her child. She passed the buck completely and her parents enabled her. Not helped. They enabled the abandonment. It baffles me how people can just leave kids and start completely new families. And now they've decided that he should have suffered in silence, so none of the adults are required to feel bad about what they've done. And now for the update. So I posted on Friday at school, and when I come home, my mom and Jack and their kids were already there talking to my grandparents. As soon as my mom saw me, she gave me such a big hug she actually lifted me up for a second. Which is weird because I'm taller than her now, and then wouldn't stop kissing me on the face and telling me she loves me. I said hi to everyone, and my grandparents had my mom take me into my room to talk to me alone. In my room, she told me she was sorry that I felt like she'd been paying me less attention, and that a new baby isn't going to replace me, and I'd always be her special guy. I started crying, so we weren't able to talk until I calmed down, and then Jack came in and joined us. I just admitted that I felt like I wasn't that important to my mom anymore, and if they were having a boy, then there would be no point in them taking me when it's time for university. And then Jack left because he kind of started crying hearing me say that, and that was weird. My mom told me that she wanted to take me when I was 13 and going into high school because she thought that was the best time to do it. Except she argued with my grandparents about it a lot, and they said it was best if I stayed with them. Then when my mom took me to a game, she saw how much fun I was having with my friends and thought they were right. When I said I wanted to go to SFU, she and Jack were happy because it meant I would be with them when I graduated. When I asked about the spare room that was meant to be mine, she admitted that they hadn't thought about what would be the baby's room and would have to figure something out since they aren't giving up my room. My mom told me she'd come and take me every weekend because she said it was wrong that she started paying less attention to me but thought it was okay because I was independent and had my grandparents. She said that she wanted me to spend my breaks with them as well. I don't want to leave my high school, but my mom said I could do that for my grad year if I wanted to move in with them earlier. I did have a talk with Jack too, and he told me that he was glad I confessed everything and that his parents got mad at him for not telling me that when he called me. We did all have a fun weekend together, except my grandparents because they don't leave the house due to COVID. And I do want weekends to keep being like that. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep doing updates here, so this might be the only one. But hopefully this will help calm down everyone who keeps messaging this account for one. Seems like a lot of his grief could have been prevented if the adults had asked him if he wanted to remain with grandparents or go with mom, or even at least explain to him the reasoning behind him not going. Absolutely. I remember reading in the comments that their decision to keep him with his grandparents was supposedly fueled by a child psychologist recommending against removing him from the environment he was used to. But he was like 10 years old at that point. Shouldn't they have taken his opinion into consideration? Truly a sad situation for OP. I hope things turn out well for him. A psychologist told my parents to make me homeless when I was struggling as a teen. There are some bad ones out there. A psychologist told me a few weeks ago, during a first appointment by telephone where it was clear she was driving and not paying attention to me, that I couldn't have been diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum because I seemed fine to her, and I just needed to go out and meet people. Then she recommended I read a book on Freud and ended the session 20 minutes early. So yeah, some therapists are absolute joke. I'm glad about the outcome, but I despise how the first reaction after a teen voicing their feelings is anger and guilt-tripping from all adults involved. The kid is 16, voices how he feels and why, and stepdad gets mad, grandparents get mad and jealous. It's infuriating. Also, no one ever communicated with him. At least Opie learned that skill. I couldn't agree more. The poor kid was basically left alone to feel like he was the one who did something wrong, when all he did was voice his very valid feelings. Every adult in the story, not just the mother, should seriously apologize to him for how they reacted to this whole thing, and I really hope they all learn to communicate with OP better. It could have been just a choice of word by OP. However, if his mom actually said, "I'm sorry you feel like," that's such an a-hole thing to say. You're basically saying I don't agree with how you're feeling. I've read several posts of parents getting remarried and or having more offspring and just almost forgetting their first offspring exists. Like they think they can get a total do-over at being a parent, and are Pikachu shocked when their offspring voice displeasure. Yes, lady, your son who you have kind of forgotten about is not gonna be exactly thrilled when you tell him you're gonna have another son when you barely interact with him as it is. Then in like a decade or two, the parents are gonna be shocked that their offspring wants nothing to do with them and just have no idea what they did wrong. Last story. I don't feel guilty about the loss of my sister's son. So I, female 24, was 7 or 8 at the time this happened. My older sister Susan, 37, was 20 or 21 and she had a newborn baby. Our mom was at work at a time, so it was me, my sister, and the baby at home. We didn't have a dad, and all of our relatives live in another country, so we were at my sister's care. My sister was always someone who likes to go out with friends, to parties, and wasn't often home, until she was pregnant and had the baby. So, she only could go out and have fun when our mom had a day off. Our mom was always understandable of my sister, being that she was now a single mom too as the baby's father bailed out, and Susan missed her friends and her previous lifestyle, but was also angry sometimes because her day off was spent babysitting my sister's child, cleaning and cooking. And with time, there were more and more arguments, since my sister only cleaned her room and only cooked for herself. Sometimes I tried to intervene, but my mom only sent me to my room. So this day, I remember I was watching the TV at a time, and Susan comes up to me and says that she's going out with her friend for only a couple of hours and that I had to take care of the baby. I never liked babies, and no one bothered to teach me how to care for one, only that they drink milk from a bottle and that they use diapers. I was a little shocked and scared, and said that she was supposed to take care of us, and I didn't know anything at all about babies. But my sister ignored me and told me to just take care of him. A little while later, the baby started crying, so I went to my sister's room and tried to figure out what he wanted, but started to freak out. I ran to the kitchen and tried to give him the bottle, but he didn't want it. I tried to give him toys, his blanket, and didn't want it. I tried everything I could think of at a time, but he only cried louder and louder, and I was getting more scared and ran to my room. I put on headphones and hid under the covers and hoped that either Susan or my mom would come home soon, and fell asleep. When I woke up, my mom was already home and was calling Susan, screaming, but she didn't get home yet. And there was an ambulance, and I was really scared again because I understand nothing at a time. And my mom came up to me and hugged me and asked where Susan was, and I told her what happened. It was noon when my sister left, and early night when my mom came home, by the way. I could tell that she was angry but tried to not show it. She asked if I knew where she was, but I didn't. And I asked her what happened, and she just told me not to worry, that everything was going to be okay. Later that night, my sister came home and our mom lost it and screamed at her, and Susan screamed back, and so on. I couldn't handle all the screaming, so I was going to my room, but at that moment I heard my sister and felt her grabbing my arm until it hurt. I got scared and started crying, and my sister was screaming at me too. I don't remember most of what she said, but I remember bits like, "It was your fault," and "You're a little monster," until my mom made her free me and I ran to my room and locked the door. The days later after that, Susan was cold and ignored me. She was either in her room or out, but when she was home, I was afraid of being left alone with her. So I began locking my bedroom door often until my mom was home. Things worsened when Susan came home smelling of alcohol and screaming at me to open my door sometimes. I never did because, again, I was terrified, and my mom had enough and kicked her out. A few months later, my mom got therapy for her and me separately. My mom never told me anything then about what happened, and I never saw my sister again until I was about 17. I used to ask my mom how she was, and she just told me that she was doing good. When I saw her again when she came home to visit, and I was a little bit in shock and on edge. I was glad to see her, of course, but also weirded out because I remembered how she treated me when I was younger. It was my mom's day off, so we were all in the kitchen talking about normal stuff like work, grades, relatives, etc. Until my sister out of the blue says that she thinks she deserves an apology. I was confused and didn't know if she was referring to me or mom. And Susan looks at me and says that I have to apologize to her for what happened. I asked what she was talking about, and my mom told my sister to get out. But Susan started to raise her voice and tell me to say sorry for what I did to her baby and that it was my fault that he died. My mom dragged her to the door and closed it when Susan was out while I was still shocked and didn't know what to do or say. After that, my mom explained very briefly what happened and that they talked about reuniting us because Susan felt ready to see me again and wanted to make peace, but didn't expect that to happen. For the full story, she waited until I was 18 to tell me. So what happened was, while I was sleeping in my room, somehow the baby suffocated. My sister blames me for what happened because she left me in charge of him. My mom found him and called the ambulance, but it was too late. Blamed my sister for being irresponsible and leaving not only her little sister, but her own child as well, just to go partying. For a while, I was still processing the info. But in the end, I understand that I was just a kid and didn't have any idea on how to do anything for a baby. And when I got overstimulated and stressed, I panicked and hid where I felt safe. However, my sister has been trying to contact me recently. She says it's because, like she told my mom, wants to reconnect and resolve this. I was on the fence about it because of the past experiences, so I talked about this to my mom and my therapist before doing anything. I relented at the end to meet with her, but only in a public place to make sure she doesn't do anything crazy. We went to a cafe, and again, like the previous time, everything was normal at the beginning. But after a bit of a small talk, my sister told me it was time that I apologize. I began to leave and pay for my part. Then I told her that there was nothing for me to apologize for. She tried to follow me, telling me awful stuff. Again, that it was my fault and I'm a murderer and hoped I never have children, and raised her voice more once we were outside. I ended up telling her that I couldn't care anymore about her or her baby, that she was the irresponsible adult who left 2 children at home by themselves, and I didn't feel guilty about it because I knew it wasn't my fault her son died, that I only feel absolute apathy towards her, and to never contact me again. I then left as fast as I could because I couldn't stand being near her while she was screaming and crying. I admit I did feel bad about her and her baby before, but after this meeting, I had enough of her crap, and her blaming a confused and scared child for the death of her son. When I got home, I told everything to my mom, and we agreed that if she tried anything, next time we called the police. So that's it. I just wanted to let all of this out. I tried to be as specific as I could from what I remember, what I've been told, and what I wrote in my diary at a time. Feel better now. Now for the comments. Her actions caused the death of her son and gave you trauma for life, and she had the audacity to say she hopes you never have children? She should have been prosecuted for neglect and child endangerment. Glad your mom is supporting you. You were a child. Your sister was the adult. She is 100% responsible for what happened. You were not. She's just trying to put the blame on you because she's too much of a coward to admit it was her fault. This. Who in their right mind leaves a baby behind with a 7 or 8-year-old? Especially without explaining them how to take care of a child. I mean, I basically raised my sister at age 10, which is still 2 to 3 years older than Opie's age. Though I was parentified, which isn't good, I was explained how to do it all before my baby sister was dumped on me. I was also a single mom at the age of 20, living with my own mom. I never really went out to party, but I did go out with friends a few times. But I never would have left my baby alone with a child. Wouldn't even leave any of my kids alone to people who doesn't agree to take care of them, no matter their age. I have an 8-year-old son, 6-year-old daughter, and 10-month-old daughter. The most my older kids have to do is entertain baby for a couple of minutes while I prepare her food or when I go pee. Am I the a-hole for losing my temper at sister-in-law after she ruined the meal I made? Plus update. My sister-in-law Ashley is, for lack of a nicer word, obnoxious. She constantly does whatever she wants, even when you ask her not to. She thinks she's right above everyone else, even when she's dead wrong. And she's just got this very stereotypical baby sister attitude, where she acts like she can do whatever she wants and nobody's allowed to be mad at her because she's baby. Yes, that's something she regularly says. My husband says she's the youngest of their family, so her acting that way is normal. But I pointed out I'm the youngest of my family, and I've never acted that way. I don't like sister-in-law, but I've been polite and kept a peaceful relationship for my husband's sake. Until today. Today was the first time since 2019 that my husband or I have been able to see our small friend group in person. We all got our shots 2 months ago. I decided to meet up finally for dinner. I cooked while our friends either pitched in ingredients, made appetizers, or brought wine. I made some pasta ravioli by hand, which was hard. I made enough for me, Hubs, and our friends. But after they arrived and we all caught up while I was finishing the food, sister-in-law showed up. She let herself in and greeted everyone happily. They know her and said hi, but I subtly asked Hubs what she was doing here. Turns out, he'd mentioned the gathering to her, and I guessed she assumed she was invited? I told him to tell her to leave, because she can't just invite herself like this. He said that would be humiliating for her, and asked if she could stay. I was annoyed, but agreed. Things were fine at the start. I had a few sips of wine to relax, and was about to plate everyone's food at the kitchen island and bring it to them, but forgot Parmesan, so I went to get it. I heard sister-in-law say she'd help bring the food to the table. I said no thanks and to stay seated. My back was to her, and she said something I missed because of the loud clang of a pot hitting the floor. I heard everyone gasp, and I closed my eyes. I knew it happened, but didn't want to look. When I did, I just started crying. Hours of work splattered on the floor. Sister-in-law said it was okay, that it was just pasta, I'll buy more. I lost it. I called her a stupid witch that ruined the entire dinner because she refuses to listen.
She started boo-hooing, and I told her to shut up and leave. She ran out crying, and I sat down to cry too. Our friends consoled me, but husband tried to say I went too far. But our friends told him he was an a-hole and sister-in-law wasn't wrong. They helped clean and we ordered pizza. But after they left, Hubs and I were flooded with calls from his family saying I was a horrible spoiled brat who made their baby cry over some stupid food. Now I'm just crying and feeling like garbage. Did I go too far? I don't usually get so angry or curse. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Hub said he understands I'm upset the food was wasted, but he doesn't think my outburst was warranted and was actually kind of extreme. Tomorrow's his off day, and I told him he's going to be making the dish like I did, by hand and on his own, and then at the end we'll see if he thinks my outburst was unwarranted. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You're the a-hole, but justified a-hole. From her perspective and her brother's, your husband's, you went nuclear. She's highly entitled and been brought up this way. You can't change her. And from your story, her family still continues to encourage her. Maybe she's clumsy. Maybe she spilled it on purpose. But either way, you're not going and spoil the food. This may not be your hill to die on, but if you're glamorous and being the baby, play along. Oh no, no wine for you, you're still a baby. No thanks, I don't need help. This is a big girl thing, maybe when you're bigger. Sorry, this dinner's for grown-ups and you're a baby. I'm incredibly petty though. This actually made me smile a bit. Thanks. Part of me really wants to do that to her. See how long she lasts before she throws a tantrum. Well, if she throws a tantrum, that typically means the baby needs to go down for a nap, or maybe a bottle. Made their baby cry? She needs a serious wake-up call. And if she cried over it, then good. She needs to get some consequences. My kid's sister is the youngest, and she's mature, thoughtful, and courteous. There's no reason for sister-in-law to be doing this. Not a a-hole. Not a a-hole. You overreacted in a moment of high temper, but she inserted herself into a dinner uninvited, disregarded the hostess's wishes, and then downplayed her disaster. You had every right to be upset, and she decided to then turn the family against you. She's the a-hole. I don't usually flip out like that. I'm very level-headed, but seeing my hours of hard work dumped on the floor just broke me. Update. Welp, Hubs made pasta for the first time today, and it went much like I'd anticipated. He was all confidence that it'll be easy during the first 30 minutes, but towards the end of the first hour, that disappeared as the burn in his arms really set in from making enough dough for almost 60 ravioli. I did not lift a finger to help him knead, since I didn't get any help when I did it. After the dough was done and wrapped up in the fridge, he made a filling, which took another 40 or so minutes. Then the dough was brought out and he had to start crafting the ravioli, all by hand after rolling the dough out. Lord, that went on for ages. Just rolling some dough out, cutting out squares, filling them and putting the top on, rinse and repeat until the dough and filling was all gone. All in all, the entire process from start to finish for him on his own took a little over 4 hours. And that's with us not actually cooking any of the ravioli. Also, didn't make any sauce or cook any shrimp for the ravioli to be served in/with. Also, I didn't prepare any salad to go with it. And when I told him this, that there was still more to do, he almost started crying. He started saying sorry at the 1 hour mark and he hasn't stopped apologizing since. We had a long talk about his sister and the dinner she ruined, and the other time she spoiled similar incidents. There's a lot. And how him and his family always let her get away with it. He says he knows how they treat her isn't normal and he doesn't like it, but was raised to just go with the flow regarding Ashley. But he said he's going to call her and tell her we need some space from her now. More update. Hubs just got a message from his cousin of Ashley laughing and bragging about intentionally spilling the pasta to teach me a lesson for being such a snobby witch. A handful of you all thought she did it on purpose, but I didn't actually think she did until hearing her admit to it. I have never seen my husband this pissed off before. I don't know what's going to happen now. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for breaking up my brother and his girlfriend? My brother has been quite financially successful in life. He's been dating his girlfriend, Gia, for about 2 years now, but she honestly earns probably 10% of what my brother makes. However, they split costs evenly on everything, which would of course be fine, except that my brother wants her to move in with him and pay rent. I've become pretty good friends with GF, And she told me she was upset because my brother wants her to pay half the mortgage and utilities, etc., which she absolutely cannot afford as it's a very expensive house. This isn't a one-time issue either. My brother has developed champagne tastes, but expects her to pay half the costs of these tastes that she literally cannot afford. They both then came to me about it together, because I think they felt I was a neutral party in some ways. Basically, I was blunt with them. I said they need to discuss financials, and that any healthy couple would have to confront how to approach earnings if they want to continue long-term. Either A, my brother needs to shoulder more cost, or B, they need to spend less, including on housing. My brother made it clear those were not options he would accept. So I said the simplest solution is not move in together, but they'll need to address this issue at some point, or accept they're not actually expecting to be together long-term. Basically, GF took the last point to heart and felt that my brother wasn't serious about a relationship if he couldn't compromise on the issue. And now my brother is furious with me and told our family broke them up by telling GF to date a guy who will spend money on her. My family's now pissed at me too, and brother calls GF and me gold diggers. I'm a lawyer and earn the same as husband for context. Here's especially where I think I'm the a-hole. I told brother the only one who cares about marrying someone with money is him. And he's the greedy gold digger who will never be happy because he cares more about money than people he loves. I hate that I said that, because my point with GF wasn't even the money. It was that brother created an impossible situation for GF and refused to compromise or be flexible, which is necessary for a lasting relationship. Family is demanding an apology for everything, so now I'd really appreciate a third-party opinion on whether I'm the a-hole or if I have a warped view on relationships and finances. Not today, home. Good for you looking out for the GF. I hope she finds someone better. Agreed. But OP, who told your family what happened? You or him? Because if he was the one who told your family, he lied. Or at the very least spun what happened to make himself sound better. Don't accept this. Fight back. Go around to the family and ask them what your brother told them, and then tell them the truth. Unless your entire family is like your brother, they shouldn't all be on his side. Not today, Hall. Not today, Hall. At all. Don't you dare apologize. Your brother and GF came to you for advice. You gave them excellent advice which the GF took to heart. Then brother misrepresented your contribution for sympathy from others. Your brother sounds like a shallow, materialistic person, and everything you said to him is totally correct. Stand your ground. Not today, Hall. You're absolutely right. Your brother is so concerned with avoiding gold diggers that he's insisting his partner drown financially trying to keep up with his expensive tastes. Either he should have split costs proportionally or lowered the living costs to meet her level. If he wants a more expensive place / restaurant / etc., he should be willing to cover the extra. His own behavior and refusal to compromise is what ended the relationship. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to get over the sexist mix-up of her twins' names? My sister is really upset, but honestly, I don't know what I did wrong. She had her twin boy and girl in November of 2020. She named them unisex names. Peyton is the boy and Mike is the girl. I never really thought much of it and didn't think it was a big deal. My sister, however, gets extremely upset when people mix up the twins' names. She told me she got upset at the nurse that called them into one of their first doctor's appointments because she assumed Peyton's name was Micah and vice versa. I raised an eyebrow at that, but didn't say anything. Since then, she's gotten into countless dumb arguments about the mix-ups. Some I've been present for. For example, once my friend was over at my house when my sister stopped over with the twins, and when my friend and I were holding them and I had told their names, she accidentally called Micah Peyton when she was complimenting her. My sister audibly sighed loud and made a big show of taking her baby and saying that she hates that people are so sexist and mix up her kids' names. A friend and I were so confused, but we just brushed it off because she left soon after and laughed about it. This happened yesterday, when our old grandmother was over at our house and accidentally thought Micah was named Peyton. My sister snapped at her rudely and I got mad. I told her to not get upset our almost 90-year-old grandmother mixed up her great-grandchildren's names. My sister said it's dumb, that the names are unisex, and if she clearly states who's who, then people need to call them the names accordingly. I told her it's an innocent mistake and not meant to be malicious. She said it's sexist, and that she hates that people are constantly making that mistake and brushing it off like it's not harmful. I told her to get used to it, because it's probably gonna happen for the rest of their lives and to stop complaining, and that since they're twins, Their names will always be put together and people will assume the more feminine name is the girl's and the more masculine name is the boy's. She said that thinking is sexist and I'm a Nehal enabler. Now for the top comments. Okay, so if your sister is so adamant that they're unisex, then why would you think it's sexist if they call the wrong one the wrong name? She either obviously and on purpose named them backward to be woke or make a point, or they're unisex, and in that case, it's acceptable and expected that some people will confuse them, as either name could apply to either child. They can't be both unisex and wrong sex applied at the same time. And second point, I call my kid the dog's name, and the dog my kid's name, and they're not even the same species. Right? The sister is arguing against her own logic. She did this on purpose. Also, I can't tell how many times my parents have said a wrong name by accident. Sometimes they call me my sister's name, but every once in a while they go through the whole family, including my brothers. It happens. Not the a-hole. She knew what she was doing when she chose those exact names. And it almost seems like she's taking some pleasure in the fact that she gets to huff and puff and correct people with their horrid sexist attitudes. I'm actually shocked people think that, because honestly, I've heard both names used as boy and girl names. We live in California. I'm not sure if it's regional or not. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not offering to house my sister's family in my new, huge house? I'm male 31, am single and child-free. For the past few years, I've been house hunting, and during 2020 was offered to buy my great-grandmother's farmhouse. It's about an hour away, almost 80 years old, needs a lot of tender loving care, and comes with about 15 acres. Originally, I declined, but my grandma offered it at a steal to keep it in the family. The price was worth the land alone, and I loved the idea for storing it, so I said yes. The house has 6 bedrooms, which sounds like a lot, but they're actually very small. The plan is to turn 4 rooms into 2 rooms and a bath, 1 room kept as the master, and the 6th room is actually the dining area that will become a part of the living area. The one great thing is the kitchen is huge and has an outdoor extension like a mudroom. I've recently started construction on the rooms and have gotten some odd reactions from my family. My mother believes I should have kept the house as is, and when I pried, she admitted she thought I'd offer the house my sister's family. My sister, female 34, has 3 kids, female 11, female 9, and male 3, and a deadbeat ex-husband. They divorced after her 3-year-old was born and my sister moved in with my mom. Our parents are divorced, so dad is not a part of this. My sister's husband moved back to his family's state and only sees the kids a few times a year. The child support is not much because he has a low-paying job. My mom's house is a 3-bedroom. My nieces share a room while my nephew sleeps with his mom. My sister has a job and could rent her own apartment, but wants to save up money instead. My cousin's son, male 15, has started staying as well and sleeps on the couch as his family life is not all that great right now. The house is cramped, but my mother refuses to ask her to leave, and they have started making passive-aggressive comments about me being single and alone in such a huge house. When I asked my sister, she also admitted that she expected to at least be offered to live with me. I told her it's an hour away from her job at school. Why would you want to? She then said she would make the drive to work and change the kids' schools. I told her I won't have the space, and now it has become a fight. My sister got my great-grandma involved, and now my grandma told me I should let them live with me because the house is family property. Now even my 15-year-old cousin is asking about staying with me. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. One is never responsible for their family's situation. You are not obligated legally or morally to house your family. Stick to your guns, because if you let them in, they may never leave. And the sister expected Opie to at least offer for the sister's family to move in, meaning she also had some wild expectation that with some luck, Opie would offer the entire house outright. Opie, your sister would take over your house if you let them anywhere near it. Continue with what sounds like really awesome renovation plans, and whistle away from your mom and sister when they start up the discussion again. Not the a-hole. Once you bought the house, it was no longer family property. It's your property and you get to decide who lives there. Not the a-hole. If it's family property, they can start covering up money for rent, renovation, and taxes. Your family is apparently full of entitled losers. If I were you, I'd sell the house honestly, and tell them it's because they won't stop bothering you.